Thanks for staying with us now. The Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has signed the VAT bill into law. This is coming off the back of Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike taking the lead to demand that states collect revenue derived from VAT instead of the federal government, now accusing the federal government through the FIRS of usurping the usurping the functions of the state with the collection of VAT. Now, some have agitated that unproductive states should be absorbed by more economically viable ones, as it seems some states are working and others reaping the fruits of others. Now, an example is across the Oniru and Lekki neighborhood, for instance, there are no fewer than 4 multi-screen cinemas complexes servicing approximately 400,000 residents in one of the wealthiest parts of Lagos. Now, Abeokuta, 500,000 people, by contrast, have just one cinema servicing the entire city. This is because anyone with capital to invest in Nigeria generally gravitates towards concentration of wealth in Lagos, whether there is even a market in Lagos or not. So why are other states not attracting investors as much as Lagos State is one question we're asking tonight. And are states right? Are they right to agitate the collections of VAT? Now, please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. We're still trying to locate our guest, but if we cannot find him, we'll just have to continue the conversation. So when I saw this report, because this was a write-up that our guest David had written up, talking about Lagos, almost choking Nigeria. So there are two parts to this conversation. On one hand, is the fact that Lagos is almost concentrated when it comes to investment. Everything, it looks like this is the candy, the eye candy for investors. Everybody wants to come to Lagos to invest. And it seems like Lagos is crippling the economies of other states. That is his argument. And I would have really loved to hear what his thoughts are concerning that argument. So that's his argument. Then on the other hand, thankfully, the VAT controversies that have been happening, where states are beginning to agitate that, there's a lot of money in this VAT revenue generation, and this is what we're getting. We want to start to collect these revenues ourselves. And some states that are not productive are just chilling and saying, no, let the federal government collect.
So that they can share it more.
So why do you think, first of all, why do you think Lagos is that eye candy? Why do you think Lagos State, what is Lagos State getting right? Or is Lagos State just positioned, to be the eye candy, or they're actually doing the work to attract that investment?
Yeah, let me just answer this question by asking, in every country there's a Lagos.
Yeah, there's a New York.
In every country there's a New York, there's a Shanghai. So in some countries you have more or two places that are like that. But if you even look at, let's take the United States of America, for example, and you often hear these statistics that about, I think over 60 or 70% of people have not left where they were born. Why? Because each state looks for what it's good at, and you develop it, and you invest in it. So it's beyond going to give, gather 10 farmers and give them machetes, give them grains, take a picture, and then you become governor. How are you making your state economically viable? What structures are you putting in place? And I don't think, I really was looking forward to the guest coming. I do not align to his views about Lagos cannibalizing anybody. By cannibalizing, you're saying they're going to take something from some other states and they're using it. I think that Lagos has created an environment for businesses to thrive. And it supports it with the kind of policies that they have. Unfortunately, I can't mention some of them. I can't mention all enough right now, but they kind of support the businesses, and that's why you see people always coming to look for those opportunities in Lagos. What are the other states putting in place exactly? That's the question we need to ask. There are states that are rich in cocoa. So if you go towards the west, there was a time that Ibadan was known as the biggest market in West Africa. Where is it today? What infrastructures in terms of transportation, access, in terms of electricity, in terms of access, in terms of even culture, tourism? Do we want to mention all the tourist locations that we have in this country?
And I've gone moribund.
Jesha, where is it? Is it in Lagos? Do you get? And if you even look at the Lagos, it's a very small place that do not even have what these people have. So what are we talking about here? I think it is the responsibility of every state to invest where it is proper. If you're in tourism, invest in tourism. Look at what Cross River did during the era of Donald Duke. Tourism was generating funds. Is that the same to today? So you begin to ask these questions. Are the leaders that you're putting in place, so let's leave federal government now, every time we talk about the president, your local government chairman, your governor, what is your governor doing that's economically viable?
I mean, if you talk about Calabar, it breaks my heart. Because I remember that, you know,
was really...
There was, I mean, everybody wanted to go to Obudu. Everybody wanted to go to visit Obudu because it was like, it was in your face. Every time you hear, oh, Obudu, Obudu, Obudu. Even my children, I think their first year in school, the year 7, the holiday destination that they go to is usually Obudu Cattle Ranch. You know, everybody wanted to go. So I do not even know what the state of that, you know, because it is easy for you to just come on and say things like, oh, this is happening and all of that, right? But you talked about, because he mentioned, I mean, he mentioned things about the port, Apapa port and all of that. Thankfully, Uti took a story, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, where she said that the train, I think which train, tramp or something that had been created now. So even it will decongest the Apapa port. Now, other states are beginning to think, you know, more cargoes can now go through other ports outside of the Apapa ports. So more states are thinking, right? And people are actually waking up to say, you know what exactly are you producing as a state? You know, so do you think, Dami, do you think this is a product of leadership? Do you think the buck stops at the table of the governor, or there are policies given by federal government that is also, yes, that is also like limiting the state government from moving their states forward?
Without a doubt, there's always it all hinges on leadership, you know, which is also similar to the foundation. For if the foundation be faulty, what then can the righteous do? Without a doubt, our leaders have a lot to do with how a state functions. But aside of the leaders, without a doubt, Lagos State is placed at an advantage that is close to the seaport here. And it's the one that has been developed for many years, even before the current administration take power. Do you understand? So by virtue of positioning, Lagos has an advantage and has an edge. When you mention something about has Lagos taken anything out of people, voluntarily people have migrated from their respective states.
Voluntarily.
They have on their own moved here because of the possibility of economic upkeep in their lives. And everyone have a right to decide what serves them and which states they go into. The way people would leave Lagos and go to Abuja because Abuja is less congested. Yeah. Every Nigerians have a right to migrate from one state to another. Absolutely. So it goes back to the leaders. What are the leaders doing to ensure?
But I want to drag that argument that because I've heard certain things where some states will argue that, you know what, they say this is an exclusive list. There's some things I cannot touch. So some states that are blessed with minerals, for instance, right? Foreign minerals. Do you get? Some states that are blessed with minerals, you know, gold, lead, whatever it is, that, you know, all the minerals that they have. And they will tell you that these are exclusive to the federal government, right? So if you really want to give a level playing field for states to actually become viable, so what are we doing in terms of policies to help make each state manage whatever it is that they are blessed with in terms of natural resources? Because we know that the major drivers for economic power for every state, actually, if they begin to harness what they have underneath their ground in terms of mineral resources, if it is food, if it is mineral resources and all of that, if they begin to harness those things that are naturally blessed in that region, they would naturally thrive.
Well, I like what you said about what are they doing. Why do we elect governors and leaders? Why? Why do we do that? These are the people that would talk for us. Now, when it came to free ranching and the cattle
grazing.
Yes, did the states in the South, did they not come together? Did the state governors not come together with a voice to say what would happen in their states? Even if this mineral resources belongs to the federal government, what are the negotiations that you're making for your people? The senators that we are putting, please, what are we putting them there for? Whether or not we like it, who makes policies? Who are the people that stand up to say, okay, so now the VATs that we're talking about, is it not the states that went to say, please, this is our money. We should be able to manage it. The same thing would happen if you have a large natural resource within your environment. What is the negotiation that you're making? What are you going to Abuja for?
I believe a lot of states are lazy because they've been dependent on the FACA. They've not been able to internally look within their states to generate revenue that will drive that state. And that is really why they need to decentralize each state. Limits the power that controls the central in terms of the federal government. Just like when you mentioned the mineral resources that we have, without a doubt, every state, some states are more blessed than the other, without a doubt. And I think in order to ensure even distribution of wealth is why the federal government keeps some in the exclusive reserve so that it can supervise and distribute it. But then there's a drawback to that in the sense that a lot of states now become complacent. They do not do enough locally to generate revenue for themselves. They're waiting on the FAC allocation before they then distribute and do their maintenance and all those kind of things, which really, there is no way the country can develop with that kind of mindset and the psyche. We need to be able to let people learn how to fish for themselves. Limits the control you have. Also, there's always a benefit. There's always the benefit to the federal government holding the bulk control of the state revenue, just like the VATs thing we're talking about. If you allow each state to generate, there's no doubt that a state like Lagos State will have an advantage, which is really why they are trying to ensure even distribution. But then, if you're going to say, okay, because Lagos State has the population, they have the thriving economy and all those whatnot, you continue to take from Peter to pay Paul, then other states will relax, and what they are supposed to look into internally to see how they can develop their states becomes something they're not very eager about.
That relaxation
because
has really
happened.
happened.
Yes, every month they then
You're going to sit down.
They don't wait on. They know that it is a sure banker that something would come.
They can't even pay
as against
salaries.
when they
it's
can't
so
pay their staff
disgraceful.
salary, and they know that you have to look within in order for them to fix their issues. They would not explore that alternative just because their big daddy is feeding them every month. That's what I think.
To add to millionaires, if we call today that every state should show us their working economic plan, like what is the plan that you have for your state to generate income? How many states can put that on the table?
They will bring it on paper.
No, well, functioning.
It's another thing if it's now functional.
I'm even surprised. I would be surprised that some even have, because the way they go about it, they don't even have.
They usually do policies, trust me, because I've worked in government and I understand that paperwork is something that civil servants do not joke with.
Yeah.
Trust me, if you ask, there will be a blueprint, there will be a plan for 25 years.
But how many
when it
people,
comes to the implementation of those policies, that is where the rubber meets the road, and a lot of time, it doesn't match.
True.
You would really not find actual implementation of the policies. For whatever reason, there's a lot of
dependency.
Not that. There's a lot of bureaucracy in government.
Oh, it is. You can't take that one
There's
out.
a lot of bottlenecks around how things should be done. They are quite archaic. A lot of our systems and our ways are not as proactive. They're not as effective anymore. But they will rather maintain status quo than disrupt the waters. Why? Because they believe that if you take away the power and you let the younger minds start to take control and take possession of some of these responsibilities, it would make the inadequacy of the older people more visible.
Well, I think that bureaucracy, you cannot separate bureaucracy from government, because bureaucracy comes from the various checks and balances that are being put into the system.
Nobody asks them not to do checks and balances.
To ensure.
But can you be more flexible in the way and manner in which you execute
I think
projects?
Everywhere in the world, you can't separate
it, but you know what, we're going to take a break, because now when we come back from the break, I would like us to discuss this VAT matter, because Wike has very strong allegations that he's just pushing the money.
Did you get him? Did you find it?
No.
Okay.
Well, we'll be right back. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now, if you're just tuning in, we are asking, right? We're discussing, we're supposed to have a guest, but we can't find him. But we're asking, how can we boost economic viability for states? You know, making every state economically viable, that they can sustain themselves, not going all the way cap in hand to the federal government all the time. And also, we'll just touch a little bit on the VAT controversy. Now, please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. So I was going to say to you, ladies, that I found the... You know, I'm sure everybody saw this thing. Okay, Madam was not online, so she didn't see it. the Governor Wike, while speaking to stakeholders, at a meeting, right, including oil companies and business owners in Port Harcourt, the governor had said he was live on a television station when he was talking about that he was insisting that Rivers money is not meant for Abuja people, but for the development of his state. He says he expressed the surprise at the level of injustice in the country and said that Rivers State generated about 15 billion as VAT in June 2021, but received only 4.7 billion, right? While Lagos State generated about 46 billion as at the same June, but only got 9 billion. Rivers received 15 and got 4.7. Lagos State generated 46 and got 9 billion. He said, whereas Kano generated about 2.8 billion and got 2.8 billion as allocation. So this is, for him, this is the injustice, right? That this revenue that he's generating from VAT, he can use it to develop his state. So I am now asking, states that cannot generate money, will it not just
to them?
Do you understand?
Who caters to them?
No, first of all, who caters to them? That's not my business. Because you know why I'm saying we need to be very selfish when it comes to state-generated revenue. We are the ones paying taxes in Lagos. We are the ones working and generating our revenues here. Do you understand? You people said I was quiet now. What we are doing, we need our roads to be fixed.
True.
Right? If you go up north, they have fantastic roads. We are the ones generating the revenues. Our roads are horrible. Do you understand? Our states are not being developed as it should. The pace at it should is not being developed. Because why? They have to share the revenue that we have generated
with other states.
With other states. So why can't we just push that every state generate your revenue? Because let me tell you something. Lagos State might need 40 billion for a project. Ibadan, because of the cost of equipment, cost of living, they might just need maybe like 5 billion. So if they can generate 5 billion and keep their 5 billion, it's fine. They'll be fine, right?
I do not think it's okay to share it like that. One, every state develop at their own pace. What you can do is make sure that a higher quota of what each state generates goes to that state, while you sort of give a fair share of the remaining balance to other states to be developed. Because there'll be some state that will be largely underserved if they are waiting on just their internally generated revenue from VAT.
But Milola,
it doesn't change the fact that
this is VAT,
right? If we look at all the resources that each state have, they are allowed to think and create wealth internally.
Let me explain something to you. So I saw a report, because this VAT thing has been ongoing silently.
Yeah.
I saw a report where they said some states, right, when you take alcohol to those states, they are Sharia states. In the north, everybody knows the Sharia law. If you take alcohol into those states, they destroy the alcohol. You know, they destroy that person's business. Because it's a Sharia state, they're not allowed.
Alcohol.
But you see, this same company will generate VATs from the same products that Sharia is like a taboo for the Sharia states, you know, and they would collect. They are comfortable to collect the money that was generated from the alcohol company that you are destroying. So there's an unfair balance that should, you know. So let's even leave the VAT matter. My point is, can we start to have a bit of balance when it comes to generation of revenue? If you know your state is not viable enough, cry out. There are ideas, right? Let me tell you something. There is no part of Nigeria. There is absolutely no part of Nigeria that is not blessed with something that can be transformed into revenue and wealth. But you see, when you keep on giving me fish, not teaching me how to fish, I will just sit down and not do nothing, because I know at the end of every month I would go to you and I'll collect money.
Akanima.
So I was taking in all you have said. That's an important point that you raised. So let's say for now we know that some parts of Nigeria are being troubled because of the insecurity and everything. Well, what do you do to places like that, seeing that they're not economically viable?
They don't create enough wealth for themselves. They should not be allowed to feed.
Are you saying that they should not exist?
No. That's what says that every state should generate its revenue and use it within the state.
Well, I would lean towards what she said, in the fact that you have a higher percentage,
yes, should be given to the state that generates the revenue to develop its states. While other states look inwardly and internally to see what they can develop locally.
Milola, what's the definition beyond that, decentralizing your states, please? Yes, because to
decentralize the state, that means you allow each state to run its own.
That's my point. That was what you said from the beginning.
I know, but you would not take it at lining like that right from the beginning and say, okay, let every state be on their own. It doesn't work like that. There will be a total breakdown, because at the end of the day, the GDP of the country is captured as a whole, even though Lagos generates more and contributes more to the GDP. But it's Nigeria we're looking at. We're not looking at Lagos state. We're not looking at Oyo state. You're looking at the country as a whole. So you have to be able to leverage other people's weaknesses and strength and see how you can ensure balance of trade.
Right? If you want to decentralize the state,
let me tell you how it should work.
No, if you want to decentralize a state, let them generate their revenue. It is a lopsided transaction that is happening that is the problem. Because normally the ideal thing is they have generated their revenue, they pay tithe and offering to the federal. It's the same thing. If you go to churches, there is a headquarter of the church. See, let us run it like a business. You have branches, right? You have franchise. Yes. So you carry I have generated 100 billion. 10% of that income
is what I'm saying.
That is what you should say, not federal collect it. See, if we truly want to solve the problem that we are asking for,
a lot of states not being functional.
We have to throw them in the deep end and let them swim out. If you do not give them that stick approach, they will never ever sit down to think of ideas that will bring that state to an economically strong state.
True.
Well, I think that what should happen actually is that, beyond even letting them just fend for themselves, I think that the federal government can create a level playing field by creating policies that can even help the weak people survive. For example, we have been talking about diversification into agriculture for as long as I can remember. Now, if the states that were even saying they're not economically strong, they are even the ones that should propel this gospel. They have the arable land, they have everything. Now, the thing is, if you look at some of those states, there's no investment into modern day farming. There are some countries, I think when Israel started out, the government propelled, even in America, you had a reward for going into farming. In fact, there were some policies that were some incentives that were even the land itself. Now, what are these people doing in those arable? Some even, I don't think there's some states that we even have, or do they even have storage?
Okay, so let me take for instance.
At what level?
When Governor Ambode was governor of Lagos State.
We're talking about Lagos State.
Wait now, you're talking about states with land. What did they do? They know that the North, they are good, they have the land to be able to farm rice. They partnered. Do you get my point?
Yes.
They partnered with Kebbi State and they did the lake rice.
Yes, I think I remember.
Do you understand?
Yes.
When they partnered with Kebbi State, they did the lake rice. So what Kebbi State is doing is providing the land, providing the manpower, providing everything. Then the income, they move the end products to a place where we will now buy. And there was a partnership arrangement.
Exactly.
So the thing is, you cannot tell me that it is lack of. There is something that you must have in exchange for money. Value only comes in exchange.
Exactly.
That's what only comes in exchange for value. So for the states that do not have, you talked about security. For the states that do not have maybe mineral resources or whatever, which I doubt, because I don't think there's any state. You understand?
But not every one of them is commercially.
But yeah, because again, they are also on that exclusive list and all of that. So let's even say, okay, you have land or you have this. There's a state that needs what you have, right? Why are you not talking to the government?
That is what is not happening, and that's what I'm saying.
Collaborating.
That's what I'm saying is that somebody needs to. So if the federal government needs the help, it needs the help in that aspect of forging these partnerships and making them happen for the people. Because that example that you cited is a very good example. You know, and we should have more of those partnerships, more of those collaborations. What is stopping Calabar from having a seaport? There was this project. There is a seaport there, yes.
But they are not as, so they're still...
Infrastructure,
and they are still, even if they are functioning, it is at very, very skeletal level.
Why? So now we go back to the discussion. Why? We go back to the collaboration. Why?
It goes back to the fact that they rely heavily on fact allocation every month.
Okay, so
there's an automated response to how they maintain the
So we go back to leadership.
So it goes, it still goes back to the leadership. And really, it makes sense for us to discuss every state being driven by sustaining itself locally within what it can create and within what it can use to empower the state. Really, it's time for government to look into that, but then we can only have this conversation on this show. We are not at the aims of affair, and we're not part of the people that make decisions.
They are beginning to do something which I am really applauding. So, rail connection. I mean, we had a guest, can you remember AK? Hamzad, I think, what was his name? Where he talked about rail networks.
Yes,
remember?
yes, I remember.
He said that if the government can fix just that one sector where every state is connected.
Okay, I was on the show.
Yes, okay, she was not on the show. Okay, I thought it was Akanimo that was with me. When he was talking about rail. And if you look at it again now, I know how many people during the summer holiday that went to Ibadan for holidays. Why? Because you can just jump on a train and you're in Ibadan, you're cutting off all that traffic. So if we're asking about government involvement, what the federal government should be doing is not collecting VATs. No, create infrastructures that would enable those states to generate enough income.
How would they create infrastructure? They have to collect money.
That's the question.
Okay, let me take.
They have to collect money.
Let me take some comments.
Money begets infrastructure.
Exactly.
I don't understand how.
And they have to pay their loans.
The government is supposed to collect loans. Loans to go and use to create
the loan is what is.
They don't need to wait for VATs to generate that money. Akanimo, check your phone. Oh my God.
You have a comment?
Yeah, we have some comments. Sorry, I'm just trying to share those comments with you.
Okay, so I'll take the one from Ade, our lovely Ade. Always supporting the show. He says, good evening, ladies. I applaud Rivers State Governor on the issue of VAT to be administered by state government. No more remittance to the federal. State governor are meant to use their brain for revenue generations and stop being lazy by going to Abuja for monthly allocations.
Exactly.
Federal government created more states in the north because of this free money generated from well-economic states like Lagos, Rivers. Both southern and western parts of Nigeria are making the northern governors to survive. All they know in the north is to make babies and increase population. Is Ade that said it?
Ade said so.
It's the term of monkey they walk, bamboo they chop. No more state creation, but think of wealth creation. Don't have a great weekend, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ade.
Well, I have a similar comment from Benson, and he says, greetings, ladies. Do the state have an economic vision to lead their people to the promised land? What is it, and what is stopping it from happening? It goes back to the same thing.
I think that was what AK had asked about working economic plan. You know, so I mean, so this actually is an interesting conversation. But you see, sometimes we don't like to hear the truth. Absolutely. When I was growing up, Kaduna was the hub of commerce. You understand? Kano. My mom used to go to Kano to board planes to Dubai. You know, to travel to Dubai. It was Kano International Airport that she used to go to go and fly to Dubai, then come back. We'll now drive all the way to Kano to pick her up and bring her back to Kaduna. This is like 3 or 4 hours drive. But she was going to Kano. So Kaduna was known for textiles, right? They had about 3 textile companies, if I can remember. KTL, UNTL, and one of them again. I think there were 3 textile companies.
Major companies, yeah.
You understand? The brewery companies were in Kaduna State. And they're still there to tomorrow. Right? NMPC was working. A lot of it was an economic hub. There was a lot of things going on. So
what changed?
I don't know what changed. I don't know what changed.
So
because
the government
because my father-in-law was a big cotton farmer. So it's not for lack of saying, okay, the lands have stopped producing cotton. But we are just so lazy. And let me tell you where this laziness comes from. We are so used to, that means at some point, Milola and AK, we have to close our mouth to say, you know what, we're not doing imported things. We want to start producing things locally. Because now it's so hard. You want to buy a fabric, you have to wait to buy from China, from Ghana, from Coton. You understand? What are we producing? We're not even productive at all.
I'm ready. See, I'm ready. See, let me tell you something, Uwa. Let's even go into the economics of this. If they produce these things in Nigeria, Uwa, you cannot buy it. You can't buy it.
Is it
Why?
expensive?
Exactly. Are you providing power for the people doing it? You need to come and interview SMEs and hear their complaints. Hear how much they spend on their operating expenses.
Do you want to ask me? I can tell you.
Calm down. No, because how much is Adire? Good Adire?
It's quite expensive.
Thank you. Compared to
Ankara.
To normal Ankara that you buy from China.
One Adire I bought today.
13,000, 28,000, 60 something thousand if you want to buy the good silk.
And when you compare it to Ankara, how much is Ankara?
How much is it? So there's another issue.
So there's always an issue around the capacity building of local
Exactly.
content.
So the thing,
the
it goes
size
back,
and the volume of business that can be done locally is very, very minimal compared to when you explore large-scale production.
It goes back to, are there the infrastructures? If you do not have to pay so much for electricity, if you don't, even this studio, let us calculate how much they spend on electricity that they generate themselves and not the one that is from PHCN. And then you can see the difference in business. It is so hard work for businesses to survive. Even to get licenses in some places, we're not even talking about the corruption. I have a neighbor that told me that they needed to mine a precious metal somewhere. Just the bribe that they were told to pay by one office asked for 25 million. For what? Why? This is a small business. For what? Everything is legal, but they don't want to hear. So, those things that you're asking for, they are tough. And I wanted to ask you, what has happened in Kaduna from when you were talking about and
the
now?
Time, yeah.
What has happened? How many crises? Do you think that people like staying in those kind of environments? Your business will be destroyed because you cannot be guaranteed.
And people get killed.
So these are the issues, until we begin to solve the main issues that will make things not viable in this country. We'll talk about this in the next 20 years.
Okay, so David and Alpha say that they weren't able to go to Ogudu because the place was supposed to be undergoing renovation, and this has been going on for about 5 years now.
Wow. Road to
That's
the
from my son. He's watching. Then I have another comment from, take your comment, AK.
Okay, my comment is from Usman. He says, this VAT thing is a welcome development and a challenge to every state governor, especially those from the north, to sit up and use their head. It's either states generate revenue or live within their means. It will be, we thank you, Usman, but we do not look at the repercussions of this thing, because the truth of the matter is people will survive.
And people will just keep moving to Lagos.
They would empty into the states that are economically viable.
So that's why it is our duty for us to go.
Are you
going to do what?
Travels and
we are Nigerians. How?
We are Nigerians. You are not allowed. You can't stop people from moving from one state to another.
Now you're creating another level of discourse that we are not here.
There was a time when they said that, let me not go and cause
my comment says the issue of VAT can be resolved politically. If you're one of those lovers of one Nigeria, now is the time to show it and be your brother.
Uncle
Victor Amako.
Victor, well done. Be your brother's keeper so that we'll be. No, but I think, honestly speaking,
it's not as easy.
It's not as easy as it sounds.
Exactly.
But I am thinking that until we push ourselves, you cannot know the extent to which
you can
be functioning and be productive.
Absolutely.
So my only prayer and what I'm actually appealing to, because I mean, when I heard that story that they wanted to create more states, I said, how ridiculous.
I found it absurd.
It was
I didn't
so
even
ridiculous.
think that somebody
of
all
the issues to
that we have is to create more states.
You're asking to build more states when there are states that are not productive at all. We're not seeing any productivity from them. I mean, some states are actually doing well, because what they are doing is that they are inviting, so states that have lands, they've invited foreign farmers, come and take thousands of hectares of land to do the farming and all of that. But I don't know how we're going to do this, but until we start to push our states to generate revenue without waiting for FAC allocation, we are nowhere. We are nowhere. I think we've had a fantastic conversation.
We have. One thing I
didn't want to raise my voice, but
you have raised it. You're agitating for better Nigeria, and I support.
Aren't we all? One thing I would say is that the 3 key issues that if the federal government solve, will be all right. Infrastructure in terms of transportation everywhere. Imagine that we have a Nigeria where trains can go everywhere at any time. 2, power. 3, security. If we solve these 3 issues, even corruption will run. Let us solve these 3 issues first.
And you will see
productivity for everything. That even corruption.
I'll go and work in Osun State and be living in Lagos.
Yeah.
Lola, we've had a fantastic conversation.
I agree with you. It's It's a lot, really, and I think it goes beyond our agitation and our conversation tonight. But then, if we don't say nothing, how can anyone say anything? That's why we always talk about, what are you saying? Bring out your comment and your contribution to the show. Peradventure, someone important is listening, and then they can take a leap of action through that.
We have a lot of comments today. The state government should be responsible, have a good economic plan, think of how to generate funds. We are always talking of federal government and states that are closer to citizens, care less about their people. Okay, with that, we're always talking about federal government and states that are closer to the people, care less about their people. Thanks. That's BC. Thanks, BC. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Milola. Thank you, AK. We had a fantastic conversation. What a way to wrap up the weekend. All right, so before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagrams at WayShowAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, we're planning a giveaway to say thank you to you for believing in the Ways brand and following the conversation. So do well to follow us now. Is at WayShowAfrica. You can like, share, comment, and invite your friends and family to watch and follow the conversation. So if you missed tonight's quote, here it is again from our able VP of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Oshibajo. It says economic growth is not sustainable without nation building, and even of greater importance, state building. Our states must do well. We'll see you guys next week as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.